right, I'm back. I had a little bit of a break, and now that I'm coming back and looking at this, getting ready to glue, I'm having second thoughts about the nose. One thing I'd like to say just about, the process, reviewing your work. Taking breaks is a really great opportunity for you to reflect on what you've done, take a break, come back, look at your composition, and ask yourself if this is what you want it to look like, if this is where it's going. And if it's not quite the direction that you want to go, or something's not quite right, you can change it into whatever you like. So while I like the visual similarity of the bullseye with the circle there, I think it's a little too busy for the face. So I'm just going to take that off. And I really like the yellow. I don't particularly like the pumpkin face. So I'm going to go on another short hunt for something that I can put over the mouth that will have a little bit of a punch, but won't look so scary and kind of ugly. I want this to be whimsical, cute, fun, not that scary kind of Halloween element. So I'm just gonna pop into another magazine. This is one of the ones that I was looking at before. So in terms of color, I'm looking for yellow in particular. If I don't find anything in this magazine, I think I'm gonna flip over to my scraps and just see if there's something that I've cut out previously that might suit this project. Not much in this one. So I'm just gonna grab my little basket of goodies and look through some of the pieces that I have cut out before. Again, looking for that color, that yellow. I like the egg yolk. Oh, here's another tomato. I might actually keep this aside just because it has that same ripply kind of tomato look, and that would be good on the collar. I'll see how it fills out first before I spend the time cutting it. Just taking a look here, seeing if there's anything and stuff I've previously found that may work in this instance. Doesn't look like I have much in that palette. All right, nothing in that one. So I'm just gonna grab this and set it aside for now. And then I have another couple things here. I want to just see if there's anything that might be interesting or cool. These ones are ones that I've done full cuts on before, but nothing here is really catching my eye either. Just pop it back in. One of the reasons that I like to do this is, number one, I don't want to have to recut something if I've already cut it, but I also really want to use up the stuff that I've already taken the time to cut. One more little baggie here. This one's more of kind of my rough cuts. I'm not going to take the whole thing out, but I just want to kind of poke around and see if there's anything that I can see right away that's like the same shade. Yeah, we'll have to take it out a little bit here. See what we've got. I was on a leaf kick for a while, so a lot of the stuff in here is green, not the right color. This is interesting because it has that matching purple. I might actually see if this is something that I could use for the mouth. I'm just gonna trim this out. Because if you see, like, the pink shade is a similar color to the dragon fruit. I was initially looking for yellow, but I don't know, the purple seems to really match well. So I'm thinking, like, if I could kind of do a ripply cut, oops, around, I might be able to, or even, I'm gonna just do like a rough kind of thin pink border around the center of this flower. So that it'll blend in. Okay, that's interesting. That way I can keep the nose. Let's just take a look there. So I can keep the nose. The mouth looks kind of open. It's the same sort of shade. I think I'm gonna go with that. The other thing I was thinking when I was having my supper here was playing around with the shape or the orientation of the eyes. So I do like them facing downwards, but I wasn't sure if they look best straight up and down. This is an option as well. Looks kind of funky. I like the mouth. I have to say it's a little tricky trying to make something cool out of a dragon fruit head. I do like it going down better. And I do like the mouth. I'm struggling because I really feel like I need that punch of yellow color. So even though it matches, it coordinates, it blends in really well. I don't know if it's enough of a pop for what because look how much different it looks with that bit of yellow. It draws your focus into the center of the image. It's a contrast to the pink. Okay, I'm gonna set that aside and I'm gonna keep looking. Let's see if we have anything in Florida here. I tend to find some cool stuff with light fixtures. Sometimes there's table legs, bowls, lamps, vases. A lot of different things can be used in different ways. So I'm particularly trying to scope out that really pretty canary yellow color. Like there's some of it there. It's not quite the shape that I'm looking for. I really like this ripple. I don't have anywhere to put it in this one. I do really like it. Oh, this is cool. Not for this picture, but I'm just looking at this. I've had my eye on this for a while. I don't know if this is the application for it, although I do like these ones. But when I saw this the first time, I wanted to do a scene on a black background so that I could get all the details without having to cut it. So I think I'm gonna wait and not use those today. And you can see, like, even just flipping through this design book, there's so much creativity in how things are staged, different combinations, like even other people's artwork can be a really good starting point for your designs. Like I look at this and I'm like, oh, that could be like somebody's dress flowing into an ocean of, I don't know, bubbles and stuff, or even like a big peacock feather, something like that. So you're always on the lookout for patterns and designs. And because do a lot of architectural photography, I tend to gravitate towards these kind of periodicals because they have like really neat lines, good shapes. Like this would be a great one to cut out the window and put something different behind it. Again, I'm kind of rambling because the way that I approach these, I'm always looking at the images as not, hey, this is a couch. I'm looking at it as, oh, this looks like rocks. This looks like stone. Oh, this looks like an electrical grid. Or again, big sweeping scenes like that. I'm always looking at how I could superimpose different elements onto what's already existing there. Even stuff like this, again, I'm digressing a little bit, but when you look at these as light fixtures, they're cool, they don't look like much. But when you turn over the magazine, when you turn over the magazine, suddenly they become sunflowers, right? So it's all about how you look at things. And I do apologize, I have the hiccups. There's nothing I can do about that other than drink a bit of water, so I apologize. All right, well, Florida, you're tragically devoid of color. It's the right color, but I don't know if I want to superimpose a face onto that. Okay, I didn't find anything in there. The thing with collage as well is it's not done until you want it to be done. And if it takes a little bit of extra time, it really doesn't matter. I mean, you know, I have the luxury today of being on my own and having as much time as I want to spend on this, but I also don't want to sit here all day. So I'm, you know, conscious of my time, conscious of your time, but I also love the fact that I'm not going to stop until I'm satisfied with how the image looks. And because of that, there may be a little bit of trial and error. There may be instances where I, you know, spend a lot of time going through magazines and don't find what I'm looking for, you know, which is a bit of a shame, but I'm not getting discouraged. I'm actually really encouraged that already I've created something that looks pretty cool. I just don't want to put something on the image that I'm not 100% satisfied with just so that I could finish quicker. I just want to, you know, really look and see if there's something that speaks to me. The flames were interesting here, but I'm trying to get it away from the scary, so I don't know if flames would do it. Okay, I'm just gonna flip through because I'm not really seeing. A lot of this oftentimes depends on the seasons of the magazine that you're reading. So if it's not something that is gonna have a lot of sunny colors in it, you know, you can find yourself flipping through a lot faster, you know, because it's not, if it's Christmas, you may not find yellows or that sort of thing. So, all right, I'm gonna look through one more, and if I don't find what I'm looking for, I'm going to explore other options. So a clock is a definite option. If I could find a small little forward-facing clock to put there. I noticed it in one of the other magazines and thought, oh hey, that might be something. So this little thing here is interesting to me. I don't know if it's big enough, but I might be able to cut it so that the circle, again, I'm getting back into this circle sort of thing, but that's mainly because of the shape of the mouth. So I'm sort of gravitating towards circles because I think it's the easiest way to get something that'll look like a mouth, but also will cover up all of the yellow. So right now I'm just going around it, trying to get a nice border, but also being conscious to get close enough that you're focusing on the pattern and the shape, not the border. It's not easy. I'm sorry if I'm covering it up there, but I'm trying to get as close as I can while still keeping it a circle. So I'm just trying to get a little bit closer here. Concentrating. All right. Okay, so I did pretty well. I mean, I don't want to keep going around and cleaning. It's like when you're trimming your nails, you're like trying to get that last little squared edge and then you end up chopping off half your nail. It's kind of the same idea. You kind of just have to let it go, know when to stop, so that you don't spend too much time, make a erroneous cut, and then slice off half your little moon. So this caught my eye because of the color and because of the stripes. So I'm thinking something like, I don't know, something on his mouth, maybe going the other way. In his mouth, maybe. I was also looking at it thinking like maybe that'll be something I could use to connect the chest to the neck, maybe? Like something under it like this. And I actually like that better. So the quest for the mouth is continuing. I'm gonna go for it. I think we'll see how it looks. But I'm gonna take this lemon and try to make a happy face out of it, or a smiley face. One of the reasons I'm picking this for this particular experiment is because of the shape of the half moon. So I'll start with a half moon first. It might be a bit big. And I'm gonna try to do as clean a cut as I can because I want it to look kind of cartoony. Oops. As clean as I can, which wasn't clean at all. I wanted to get some of that rind in there, but I think it might look better just as a clean white line. Okay, so this is what we're starting with, but to me it's too big. So I'm gonna trim off a little bit here. And then what I'm gonna do is like try to shape a little smile out of it. We'll see, turn that frown upside down. I kind of like it. See what I mean about the contrast in the color? So with the purple, oops, with the purple, it matches, but it doesn't offer that visual contrast of the yellow with the pink, and it doesn't draw you in like this hopefully will once it's positioned and glued down. So I think I'm gonna go with this because it looks happy, it looks fun, it looks whimsical, and what's cool is that in the progress of trying to find a smile, I found that cool medallion that kind of blends in, and now it looks like a little necklace, sort of. Yeah, so the next step is to, well, I was gonna say glue it down, but now I forgot about this part here, the part with the writing up here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna cut that. Maybe I'm not gonna cut it. I'm going to just overlay some of that gray. I wish I could remember what magazine had that color in it. I think it was one of the food magazines. And I'm just gonna flip through and see if I can find that sort of gray color. It's not quite white, it's more like a gray. This is similar. This looks pretty close. I'm just gonna check because it might be too white. It's a little white, but I could just put that here. I'm gonna try to find something just a little bit more gray, just so that I can try to match it a bit better. See, this is what I'm looking for. So see how this is quite stark and white? This has that gray tone to it. So I'm just gonna cut a big chunk of this and use it in my image. The other thing is this little bit of green, and I actually just noticed that I have a little piece of green here. So I'm just gonna cut this off here. And then this will be something that I can stick right over the lettering. Make it go the right way, but I can stick it over the lettering of on the aloe. Yep, so I'll just like pop it right on there so that it'll kind of flow. And then this part here, I'm just eyeballing how I want it to look. Again, this is just like a patch, kind of. So something kind of like that. So you can see up in the corner how I've kind of doctored it so that there's no writing left. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is start gluing. So what I normally do is, I'm just looking for a cheaper end scrap magazine. So these ones I usually find in those magazine boxes that are around town. They're free. I usually pick up a couple just so that I have something to glue on. And then what I do is I try to just tidy up my space. So all of this here, there's like a big pile of stuff. After I'm done, I'll go through this and gather up any of the images that I didn't use in this particular piece and put them in the bag so that I can use them next time. But I like to kind of tidy up my areas so that I don't mix up the pieces of my collage work in progress with the scraps with the scraps that I'm gonna save for next time. So now I'm just gonna grab a glue stick. And I'm not gonna use that other one today because it kind of drives me crazy. So I'm just gonna go with the purple. Now what I normally do is, because collage is a layering process, the last things that I'm going to be sticking down is the cat, his tail, his legs, his whole body. So this part here is gonna be last. The first thing that I'm gonna glue on is this big spray of green. So the way that I normally do it is I pull down, so I put my hands on top and I pull down the whole image to reveal just what I'm wanting to stick down. Now, you can see here that it's kind of squished and jumbled, but I've also been looking at this image for the last, what, two and a half hours. So I have a pretty good sense of where things have to go. And by looking at this little jumble here, I remember where I wanted things to be oriented. So because I'm building things from the bottom up and layering up, you're always gonna wanna start with the background first. Whether that's a single piece, whether it's a collage of pieces to get a specific color, or if you want something that has different shading, you're always gonna wanna start with the back first and then build up on top. Sometimes I forget this and I'll stick something down and go, oh no, I forgot that I wanted this other thing underneath it. So I'll like quickly peel back while the glue is still wet and then tamp down the other piece that I wanted to insert. So I'm gonna move these two small pieces to the side just so that I don't lose them. And I'm gonna move this one just to the side as well. And what I'm gonna do, because I'm building more green off of there, this is actually gonna be the first piece I glue down because this piece is gonna overlay. So I will start the gluing. And I'm actually just gonna move this down a little bit more just so that I can move this a bit just for the sake of my back. Okay. There's no real technique to gluing. Just pretend you're in kindergarten and try to get as close to the edges as you can. And you don't want to slather it with glue and you don't want big globs, but you do want everything on the collage to be covered. Oops. This is another thing that I've noticed recently with some of these boards is that the glue doesn't stick super well, which is a bummer. So what I'm gonna do, just for the base layer, because it's a little bit stickier, is this extra strength glue. The other thing I would say is that a lot of this is trial and error. So this is a new type of board that I've got recently, and it's the first time I've used it, and I'll know, you know, I usually only buy a few at a time and I like to try different boards, but I'll know for the future that I have to use a stickier glue for this particular type of board. And then you want to what's called burnish it. So you really want to get in there and press the glue into the board. Just gonna cap that for now. So I can still use the purple glue for the overlaying layers, but I'm gonna have to take a thicker hand with the base layer on this one today. Again, no technique, just get the glue on as quickly as you can before it starts to firm up. and try to get the glue all the way to the edge. And then you also want to make sure that you are putting glue across most of the image. Sometimes I see some collage artists do like a big X or whatever, but then you're not actually gonna get a good adherence. So I always try to leave maybe like a 1/4 of an inch overhang. The main reason that I do that is just so that I can, I'm trying to talk here. The main reason that I do that is so that when I go back to trim it later, there's a little bit of an edge for me to trim. It's sort of like leaving a seam allowance, like if you're a sewer, you know, just so that you have that little bit of an edge to make that clean cut. So there's our background. And I also have this one here, but I'm just gonna line it up to this instead of putting it under, because I know that I'm gonna put another leaf right over top. So just butt that right up against it and then burnish it down. Oops. Yeah, these boards, I know I recommended them at the beginning, but just be cautious or get a bit of a stronger glue. Okay, so this piece here, I believe was coming off, yes, it was coming off this one here. So what I'm gonna do is actually make sure I can stick that on there. Oops. I'm actually thinking I'm going to do it this way, just to add a bit more visual interest to this side of the aloe plant. I'm gonna cut out a little bit on the ridges on this side. I was originally gonna put it the other way, but it looks a little straight, and I want to have that kind of spiny, spiky look to it. Okay. So there we go. Okay, so I'm going to stick that on right away. And you can see what I mean about like the globbiness. I mean, which for the base layer is good because you get it like nice and tacky, but it's gross. And then your hands get all sticky and yucky. And so I'm trying to line it up as best I can to follow the flow of the rest of the aloe arm or leaf, I guess it would be. I'm not sure. Okay, so the next thing that I want to overlay is this ochre. So I'm going to put it low enough down that I can see the spikes like that. Ah! Sometimes things rip, but luckily we have glue, so it's not a tragedy. It's a little annoying, but it's okay. Oops, I forgot where I was going here. And then this I'll pull up and just tack back down. If you ever rip anything, the little dabbing motion with your finger, oh no. See, there are no mistakes in collage, but it's totally not the direction I wanted it to go. So I'm just gonna move it and reburnish, because I want you to see the leaf and the spikiness. So I'm just pushing out any air bubbles or any ridges in the paper that I feel, because I want it to be really smooth, especially because I use these for prints. I don't want there to be shadows or bubbles or anything like that. You're gonna see a little bit of the bleed through of the stuff underneath on the other side of the page, but that's not that big of a deal. So the next thing I'm gonna start looking at is filling out this area here. And let's just see if I need to put this here yet. Oops. Yes, so here's where this was gonna go. So remember what I was saying about the visual balance? You wanna make sure that you have the same sort of look on, well, depending on what type of image you're making, but I want to make something that is more symmetrical on either side. Okay, so I'm looking at what I'm gonna do real quick, and please bear with me, is rebuild my little critter here. So I have the eyes, the mouth, the thingy. Over here, I have his body with his feet and his little half moons. Don't lose those. Then I have his tail over here. Okay, and the reason I'm doing that is just because I know the components that I have here. I just want to make sure that I don't monkey with the scale, because I'm already noticing that I'm getting kind of low on the page. So I just want to make sure that I keep up with what I had going on earlier. So I'm just gonna reconstruct it a little bit and sort of build it from the bottom up again. So here's his tomatoes, here's his meat. Now here's his leaves, and here's all of his caramel. So I had the caramel outstretched on either side of here. I had similar looking swirly things on either side with kind of a thing here. Okay, I'm gonna wait to put this down because I can see already that it's gonna overlap whatever I put down. So I'm gonna just move that up a little bit and build out this part here. So what I'm gonna try to do is match this side up as close as I can so that I don't need filler on this side here. And then I'm gonna be symmetrical on this side with the other similar elements. So what I'm gonna glue down now are these two pieces here. So the first one's this one. And again, I have that little overhang there. Oops. And the other side. So I'm trying to line up. I don't always get it 100% perfect, but I try to line it up as best as I can because I want that visual continuity. And I'm actually just gonna, oops, move this over just slightly. Oops. Again, these boards aren't very accepting of my glue, which is a bummer. Okay, tamping that down, taking a look, looks pretty good, maybe a little bit higher on this side, but c'est la vie. Okay, these little caramel pieces, again, I want to double check periodically that the stuff I have intended is still going to work. So I want to overlay this piece centrally enough that it goes behind this part here. So, oops, oh, my fingers are sticky, it happens. Okay, so now I have a better idea of where I want to stick these guys here. So I'm going to take this off and look at where I want this to go. Peel it off and give it a stick. gonna do? My fingers are sticky again. Sometimes it's a good idea too to have like a little cloth nearby so that you can periodically just wipe your hands, but I just tend to wipe them on my apron so I can just throw that in the wash after. If they get really gummy, then I will get up and wash them, but for now they're fine. All right, so I want to line this sort of parallel to this one here, while still being mindful that I want it to be centered. And that looks pretty not bad. That's what I go for in my art. Pretty not bad. Okay, so what we have here is two sides of a caramel sky, and we're going in with just a double check on our stuff, making sure it all lines up. Keep in mind that his head and the little apron thing is going to be here, so that should fit in just fine. Now I have a couple more butter bars here, but I also have, the other thing that you'll notice as well as you create your art is that once you start gluing down, your square footage kind of shrinks. So as I'm building this and sticking it down, I'm losing more and more of my page, which is good because I may not need as many elements, and that can help it be less busy. So I'm always cutting, I'm always looking for enough to cover the surface, but as I'm going through the process, I may discover that, hey, you know what? I may not need these now, right? Or hey, I may not need this swirl of peanut butter. So it's just things that I'm thinking about as I'm building this. I'm gonna set these aside, but if you take a look, I have enough with these other elements to make my background look complete. So I'm just gonna turn the page here on my sticky stuff so that I don't get any residue on my pieces. This glue does dry clear, so I'm not too worried about it, but sometimes it gets stuck, it can cause tearing on your pieces. Yeah, so where I can, I try to only use the same spot once. So I'm just trying to cover up that little bit of white, get it down, burnish it, get it right in there, and do the same thing with the other square. And I'm putting it kind of bumpy side up just so that I get a little bit more of that contrast. Again, just looking to see where on the page this is laying, where it lay. And right now I'm kind of playing around with the proportions, but for the most part, it's pretty parallel. So when I put the grapes on top, it should blend in pretty nicely. And then what I also want to do is put the potatoes in, but I'm gonna put them the other way so that you can still see the butter. Because if I put them the reverse way, the butter is gonna get lost by the animal's body. Because I like that little hint of yellow, and then that also ties back into the lemon smile. So just trying to line that up. I know it's going to be covered, but I want to have as much of that yellow showing as I can. So I'm just going to burnish it down, give it a little tap. And even elements like the pepper on the mashed potatoes, just add that extra little bit of visual interest. And I'm a big fan of any additional stuff that makes the image more interesting and more cool. So I'm going to drop this down a little farther, and that's that for that. So I'm going to burnish it, and I'm just going to quickly wash my hands, so if you see an interruption, I'll be right back. Okay, my hands are all clean, so now I can start working on the base layer. So we have grapes. We also have more grapes. And ever more grapes. Oops. And then I have these three as well, which I can stuff. I don't think this was originally how I had it, but again, you can just play with it. So this gives me a full covered base layer. So the first thing I'm going to glue down is this big bunch right here. I'm going to glue down right down here. Just going to try to get off some of that glue. Again, getting it nice and sticky because this canvas is not great. And trying to cover right to the bottom of the page while having all those bright green bumps of grapes visible. So I have some overhang, which is fine, so I'm going to chop all that off after. And now I can stick on this other part. Okay, so I'm trying to get it lined up so that I know for sure that his body is going to cover it. Oh, there's a little mistake there. It's not quite high enough to cover all the white. I just need to push it up slightly and then flat. I ripped it. Emergency! That's okay. There's enough grapes under there to cover it up, so it's all good. What I might do, oh, I have to let it go, maybe, I don't know. I don't know if I can get in there and get it. What I was thinking is just making like one quick slice and getting that out of there. And then rounding this off as well. But I don't want to mess with the picture too much. So it is what it is. It's not as rounded as I would have liked, but because I don't want to ruin what I have here, what I might do after is go back and see if I can find a single grape to put over top, because I kind of roll that way. The tear doesn't bother me, but I would, just for visual continuity, like to have a bit more of a circular break there instead of a complete rip. But it happens, right? And because it's a layering process, there's always opportunities for you to overlay something else. And that's what collage actually means, is glue. So just glue, glue, glue. Glue away. Try to tamp that down a little bit. Get out any bubbles. I'm gonna stick this one down next because it goes in the corner, and then this one is gonna overlay so I can creep up. And as you see, it looks like I'm getting some symmetry, which is nice. Or quasi-symmetry. But enough that it looks, there's continuity, it looks cohesive. And adhesive. All right, so I'm gonna pop that up, bring it down as low as I can until the white starts peeking through, and then start to burnish, because that's the money spot. That's where I want it to be. And then tamp it down. And one more bundle of grapes, and we're good to go. All the grapey goodness. Now it's starting to get sticky. on this side. So again, I'm gonna flip over. You can also reuse pages. Like if you see here, this is a page that I've already done gluing on. It's dry now, but it was really sticky at one point. So I try to recycle this stuff as much as I can, especially because I'm getting these magazines in particular for free. I don't want to take advantage of the fact that, you know, these are laid out for people to read and stuff. And I will be honest, most of the time I read through the magazines before I destroy them because I like this type of media. So I want to learn how to grow better stuff and cook better food and decorate my house more nicely. I want to fantasize about traveling to Florida and stuff. So, okay. Now, as you can see, we have almost our complete base layer complete. Like, completely. I'm just taking a bit of a break for some water. That's the other thing I would mention to you. It's sticking to the table. Make sure that you take breaks periodically. It's really easy to get super hyper focused and into the zone to the extent that, you know, we forget to drink water, we forget to go to the bathroom, forget to have lunch. Being an artist is really fun, but you know, you have to do that self-care as well. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so the next thing that I want to add is this next piece of leaf here. And this looks like it's going to match up pretty well to the other side. So that's about where I'm thinking that I want it. So I am going to try to remember where it was and then stick and get stuck. All right. And now it's going to be a little bit easier to glue this down because I'm going to be gluing part of it on other paper. So again, I'm trying to cover up this white over here, but I'm also trying to be consistent with how the branches look. So I'm just going to turn it just slightly because I want it to sort of match in terms of the direction that the leaves are going. And I just ripped off one of the stalks, but that's okay because I'm probably going to end up covering that all up with the stake anyway. There we go. So the next thing that I want to look at is the head. So I know, I'm just gonna try to, well, look at this chunky crap. Like, no offense, Elmer's, but your glue is disgusting. Like, look at that. But it did serve a purpose earlier on in the project, so can't complain too much. Okay, so what I'm looking for is where the beef and the tomatoes are going to be oriented in relation to the rest of the image. So I'm just going to like lightly block where I want this to be. And I think that's about right. Okay, so now I need to just make sure I know where the meat is going to be going. And I want to make sure that I cover up all of the white that is visible. Oops. So, about there. So that's what I'm thinking for the beef. So I am going to go for it and just stick around down, and it's just going to look, hopefully, like part of the creature's face or its gills or something. I don't know. I like how it blends into the color of the face. So it was about right there. So when I look back and put the face back, it's looking the way that I want it to look. I'm looking at this here and I know it's still wet, so I'm gonna chop it off because it's just not quite the right length. What I might do afterwards is put another little piece of mocha just right there. Actually, I might do that now. That's pretty close. Just to maintain that symmetry, I'm looking, maybe I'll put it it's so gloppy. Okay. And just nestle that up closer to the steak so that it blends better with the other side. And I'm just going to trim a small piece off right there. So I'm just gonna pop this in a little tighter. And there we go. Okay, so I'm gonna take a look and see on the other side whereabouts the tomatoes are going to live. So to me, it makes sense to have the bigger tomato probably at the back. Just in behind, but I want it to be similarly placed to the beef. So I'm actually gonna do a cheater trick because I don't want to lose where exactly it is. So I'm going to half stick it down on this side, and then I'm gonna come back and do a lift and stick on the other. This is a good technique if you really want accurate placing and you know exactly where you want your piece to be. Okay. You constantly have glue on your hands, which is annoying, but a fact of the collage life. And then I'm just gonna build out from there. So, oops, glue your stuff over top and embody the true meaning of collage. Just gluing, overlaying, making things visually interesting, using unexpected images. So you see, I'm trying to sort of mimic the shape of the tomatoes with the shape of the steak. So I'm gonna pop that one there so then I get kind of that bubble look, similar to lace or that 18th, 17th century sort of looking collar, 18th century. And then I want to line it up so that there's no gaps, but that's so I've covered up as much of the white as I can. And burnish it down. And there we go. Okay, constantly wiping my hands. Now, this big head thing is pretty cool looking. And this goes right underneath. So the next one that I'm going to glue down is actually this big piece here. Remembering that I want to keep the handle up on the image because I want that sort of continuity of the arch and somewhere to put the medallion so it looks almost like a necklace. So I'm just going to place that there. Now, I want to try to make it as straight as I possibly can. That's about as good as I can do. I hope it's straight. But all I can really go by is how straight it was in the original advertisement and how straight this canvas is. I think I did okay. So just burnish that down again. Now I have the head, or the bib. Because I believe I had it so that the bib was going sort of behind the head. Perfect. So I want to use, so if you look here, get a bit of a close-up here. I don't know if you can see it. At the top of the bag, there's like a line of thread. I'm going to use that as my guide for where this is going to sit. So I want it to sit just below there, I believe. But remembering that I'm also going to be putting a medallion down, so I'm not going to stick it down yet. I'm just making sure that I have my spacing right. And if you take a look, I've covered up all the white space. I may actually move this down a little bit because I wanted this to be kind of his neck and his fan. But I think if I use that line as a guide, that this will fit in really well. So I'm just gonna stick this on. Using that as a guide, making sure that I have even spacing on either side of this dome. I'm just going to move it over slightly. Move that out. There we go. So what I really like already is just the contrast in these sharp curved lines and the concentric circles. I think it looks really unique and sort of spacey, but it also looks like kind of a lizard, like I said earlier. Okay, so I'm really liking how the face is looking here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and stick them down, get a nice dry spot on the thing here. Make sure I have enough glue. Sometimes I start with the more delicate parts of the image, like if I have special cuts or things that are really intricate. These aren't super intricate, but they're quite fine, so I tend to do those first just so that I don't tear the image and sort of work from the inside out. So what I'm doing now is just trying to center the head, and I think that's pretty good. And I'm going to burnish it, make sure that I get all my little pieces. Oops, that's a bummer, but it's okay. It's stuck to my finger, so I'm never going to be able to retrieve that. It happens, and it was just a small little piece on there. Not that big of a deal. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do, I think, is the feet, and stick that on and see where that lands us. I accidentally stuck that onto an area that was already kind of sticky. Okay, so I'm going to stick that on there and position it the way that I would like, and then start lightly burnishing it. This is a bit of a more delicate piece because it's only really joined in those two small places there. But I think that did the trick. All right. I really like how this is taking shape. The only other thing that I'm gonna do, just while it's still wet, is lift that one side, because I still have to put down the tail. So that's something I just noticed, just remembered, thank goodness. And yeah, the next thing I'm gonna do is the medallion. So just do a little bit of glue on there. And then put this right under his bib. Try to get that as straight as possible, because I want it to be geometric, but also really prescribed in how it's being placed. I really like the visual dynamics between the different white stripes. I think it looks really cool. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is pop down this part of his tail. So try to find a space that I haven't glued on yet. And this is going to pop in right under here. And just press it down. Now I'm going to take the smaller one, do the same thing. And I'm going to try to line them up, but because the stripes are smaller, it's not going to be exact. There we go. Okay, that looks good. Now, how do I want to, way do I want the tail to go? So I'm thinking like that. So I'm going to line it up right with the edge of the top of the tail there. I'm just matching it up so that it looks continuous. I have a little extra here, and I am a bit short, so I am going to grab that and make it help bulk up this tail section here. And I also have another one of those that I'm going to use to beef it up a little bit. Perfect. And even just a different directional change can denote, you know, shading, a little bit of difference, adds some depth to the picture as well. So don't be afraid to sort of mix it up when you're considering how to build out your pictures. You see how the different direction is just giving it that little bit of lift, little bit of different element to it. All right, so now we have his body, we have his tail. He's looking really sharp. I'm gonna switch glue sticks just because now I'm gonna be gluing on top of other paper. I think this one's gonna actually work now. I'm gonna grab another clean page just because I'm gonna be doing work that's a little bit more delicate with smaller pieces. I'm gonna glue on his little feet. And for these, I find even just moving it on top of the glue stick usually gives you enough glue that you can make it work. So I want it to just cover the edge. Oops. It's a little far. There we go. And I'll replicate that on the other side. Here. And I want them overlapping. So that looks pretty much right on track. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Trying to get it lined up. Oops. Perfectionism is a curse. I want it to line up. Okay, perfect. Yeah, you know, just because there are no mistakes in collage doesn't mean that you can't be meticulous with how you arrange things or how you implement your design. Because in the end, it's a reflection of you. It's a reflection of yourself. So you're gonna get out of it what you put into it. And if I want to spend 3, 4, I don't even know how long we've been talking for, hours on a project, you know, I want it to look like I worked hard on it. Okay. The only other things that I have to do now with this weird dragon head, I don't even know what it's a cat of some sort, is the eyes and the mouth. So I'm just going to look at the mouth one more time and make sure that's what I'm looking for. And really just go for it. Glue on the eyes. And I think this might be the last piece of the puzzle here. Just trying to line up the eyes so they don't look too locked out. And turn it just a little bit. That's better. All right. So I think this is my dragon cat thing. I think it turned out, oh, I almost forgot. It's a good thing you guys are on top of it because I would totally forget. So I have these 2 cover-up pieces that I forgot to add to the corner. I'll just do that quickly and then I will clean up the edges and show our final product. Okay, that's that piece. And then I have this small little green piece here. And this was gonna go right like so. Oops. There we go. So tidied up that corner. It's not an exact match, but it's collage. It'll do. So this is my little friend. So what I'm gonna do now is grab my mat and my artist blade and trim the edges, and we'll see what we get. So I just flip it over, grab my blade, make sure it's nice and tight, and then I just try to angle it away from the mat or away from the board so that you don't accidentally cut into the board, which I do all the time. But if you can avoid it, it is preferable not to cut into your canvas. So that's not quite tight enough for me. So I'm just gonna, just gonna go back over and get a little bit closer. So that's that one cut. I'm pretty sure that's as close as I'm gonna get on that side there. When we flip it over, it's a fairly clean line. Now, I wouldn't be able to do this with scissors just because it wouldn't get in tight enough for me. I'm just gonna take another little swipe, and that's that for that. Next side. You have to press a little bit more firmly. Oh, I have a visitor, everybody. Hi, Bailey. He might jump into frame here. You can see his little snout sniffing around. Oops. See, Bailey, you're distracting me. All right. So I cut into the canvas a little bit. It happens. Because I make prints out of these, it doesn't really matter because I crop the image anyway. But I do want to get as tight in as I can here. One more little cut, and that should be good. So just slightly gibbled, not a huge deal. You can see here I made a little boo-boo on the edge. But again, because I have these imaged and I crop them, I don't have to be as concerned. I mean, I could probably even just leave it, but I mean, I want to see it in more of a final form. That one went pretty well. Oops. And there we go. Move that aside. Snap up my glue. Hi, Bailey. Don't jump on there. That's where my camera's mounted. No! Sorry about the shakiness, everybody. So this is my dragon fruit cat, I guess. Cat, animal, some sort of lizard. I don't know. Well, I hope you enjoyed this journey with me, going from a blank canvas to this colorful beast here. And I hope you enjoy these types of videos. I know it's a long form format, but with COVID, I know for myself, I've watched a lot of long format videos and get really encouraged by the creative process and like to see what others are doing. So I hope that this is something that you enjoyed watching. And if you like this video, please click the like button and subscribe, and go ahead and click that notification bell. I'm going to try to do more of these real-time collage with you. In the future, they may not be as chatty, but I tend to just talk. Again, this is a new format for me, so I don't quite know what to talk about, but just talking about the collage process, what I'm thinking about as I'm doing it. And yeah, I had a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoyed. And we'll see you next time on Songbird Collage Arts. Take care.